the National NIRSA student leader. So if you guys want to also in the chat, you're muted as you're coming in, but if you wanted to throw a little introduction, name, university, you could add a position if you'd like, or anything else that you want to add to the conversation, feel free to do that. We'll be actively using the chat throughout the session, so making sure that you have that open. We'll be talking through there, sharing some resources. If you don't feel comfortable talking, you can always use that chat to give your commentary as well. So super great resource as people are coming in. Cool. Still got a few more people connecting. Awesome. And then if anyone's having like any issues where you can't hear me or something's cutting out or you need me to repeat something, feel free to also put that in the chat, and or you can unmute yourself and bring that to my attention. Today we're going to be really focusing our first half of the session on reopening and mostly our perspectives about it, and then that second half is going to really be an open forum for anyone and everyone. So I'll be facilitating most of the conversation, but we do have our student leadership team for the 2020-2021 year here as well. So if you'd like to reach out to any of them, their contact information will be at the end, and you can direct questions to them if there's more of a region-specific question that you may have. Awesome. If nobody has any questions right now, I think that looks like we have most people in. We still have a few people connecting, but I'll go ahead and start with our little introduction. Okay, can everybody see my screen? Cool. Hopefully. Awesome. A few thumbs up. That's all I needed. Thank you guys so much. Okay. So, oh, wait. Maybe Google. Oh, okay. Don't know. Does anyone have recommendations there, or should we just go down the regular route? We'll try one more time. Otherwise, Google has an error. Well, we just won't do it in presentation mode, and we'll just do it this way. Can everyone see this slide good enough without, all right, cool, without doing it in presentation mode? Awesome. All right, everybody, so welcome to Ideas in Motion, one of our virtual roundtables for our series within NIRSA and Campus Recreation. Today we're going to be focusing on the student perspective, as I mentioned. So once again, my name is Tanika Santos. I'm a fitness graduate assistant at the University of Kentucky, and to NIRSA, I am the National Student Leader working with the SLT this year. So with this overview of what we're going to necessarily be doing, this session is being recorded and it's going to be posted on the NIRSA Ideas in Motion webpage, so you can send the link once it is out and uploaded to staff or friends, peers, other people who weren't able to get onto the call, and then they can watch it as well as access that chat afterwards, so they can see any commentary or any information that you guys are putting in that chat. They'll be able to see that as well. And then please ensure that you are muted. It mutes you automatically, but if you happen to come off of mute to speak, that you mute yourself again, just so we're not getting a ton of background noise or anything else overshadowing other people's commentary. And then you can use that chat box for questions or comments if you want to include your title and your institution, just so if you were to bring up a point that someone later wants to look into or ask a question that someone later would like to answer, they know who to contact if they're not able to be on the call at the moment. And then continue utilizing NIRSA Connect, so that's where you're going to be able to find some of the resources we share and being able to continue this conversation. So if there are ideas that come forward that you're really interested in jumping in on, you're welcome to add that to the NIRSA Connect and be able to connect with our members across the board, okay? Any questions there so far? Cool, okay. So of course, our guidelines, we really want you to respect everyone. Everybody is subject to their own opinion, ideas, and viewpoints. Today especially, we're probably going to be talking about some things that may be touchy subjects or a little bit closer to home. We may have some emotional connections to them, and I just want you all to know that this is a no judgment space. It's completely open to any conversation. We're going to make sure that it's safe and supportive for you all to share your opinions, perspectives, and ideas. So don't be afraid if you are, and if you would prefer to use that chat, that's okay. If you'd like to message people privately, that's okay as well. Just making sure that if you do have an opinion to voice, you're doing it cognizant of other people's opinions and emotions, so we're not getting into any conversations that might not be totally supportive. And then all ideas are welcome. So if there's something that you may want to start off, I don't know if this is a great idea. I know I do that all the time. Like, hey, I don't know if this is kind of dumb, but I have an idea. You can go ahead and share those either in the chat or video as well. We are really looking forward to sharing the ideas that you guys have for us with the member network at large and really making those changes. So this isn't just a one-time deal and we forget about everything that was said. So our topics to be covered, we're going to look at some of the national reopening stages, so where everyone is across the board, just to get us into that mindset of reopening post-COVID-19, and then preparing individually. And then we're also going to talk about some of those continuing virtual options, so what you guys are doing, what you're seeing, your successes and achievements, and your obstacles and challenges. And then, like I mentioned, we're going to be having that open forum at about that halfway point. All right, if anyone has questions, again, feel free to put those in the chat. I'm not able to see the chat, so if you do have a question, you're welcome to unmute yourself and ask that. Okay, so starting off, here we just have our map of all of our regions across the country and then where restrictions are currently. So those darker colors are going to be our major restrictions, which is personal care, gyms closed, restaurants and bars have no dining in, only takeout, and then 6 feet of distance, face covering, all required, and then less than 10 people in a group setting are also required. So that's going to be your major restriction. That middle is our most areas are open with limited capacity. Bars and gyms are still remaining closed, however. And then our minor is, you know, bars, theaters, restaurants are open, and for the most part, large groups are permitted. So if you're seeing a state that has those dots in it and you're thinking, wait a minute, that didn't align with what my area is doing, there are varying regions as well in those states. So some parts of the state are doing different things. This was updated 3 days ago, so things have changed. I apologize, but as we know, things are changing with this whole scenario every day. But that's just to get us all on kind of the same page. So I'm going to start opening it up to everybody else. Feel free to unmute yourself. We're just curious about how you're planning to reopen, a little bit more on the strategies, whether that's recreation facilities, group fitness, whatever area that you're coming from, and then sharing maybe some of those challenges or concerns you have moving forward. So if anybody wants to go ahead and start sharing. Or I just feel like everyone gets tired of my voice. Okay, well, at the University of Kentucky, we have a really long risk management document that is currently being updated. We're moving our equipment all over the place. We're displacing a couple hundred pieces of equipment because there's just no space for them if we're going to be continuing to utilize that 6 feet of distance. So we're putting equipment on our basketball courts. That's going to allow us to make the most of our space. Our racquetball courts are all closed. There's not going to be any kind of, for the most part, recreational sports, only because there's a really difficult time of maintaining that social distance and enforcing those rules. We're going to be having sneeze guards between all of our platforms and not between our machines. So something like a cable machine where it has 4 sides, you're only allowed to have 1 individual on it. So that allows us to continue that 6 feet of distance. And then sneeze guards at our front desk. We're still looking at how we're going to be using some of our towel services, whether people are going to be required to bring their own mats and things like that. Still looking into that, but as of right now, we're probably going to be doing sanitation on everything every top of the hour. And for group fitness, we are also going to be having every class alternating in classrooms, so 1 hour in one class, and then the next hour is in another class while they spend 15 to 20 minutes cleaning all the equipment, no sharing equipment, all that good stuff. Some of the challenges and concerns, we don't fully know if we're going to be on campus. As of right now, we have a few different routes that are potentially being proposed, so we're just not sure. And if we are not on campus, then a lot of this necessarily doesn't happen and we don't get those student fees. So that's definitely a concern for me personally, because there won't be any programming at that point, and we'll have to just stick with those virtual options that we have. Anybody else wants to share? Or if that chat's wide open. Anybody?
Hi, I can share.
Yeah.
Okay, my name's Heidi. I work at the Ferris State University Recreation Center in Michigan, which was one of those areas that is under more restrictions right now. So we are trying to hold in-person classes in the fall. So we're trying to get our rec center ready to be opened. We are planning on moving a lot of our weightlifting equipment onto the gym floor, and then kind of only having 2 gyms out of our 4 available for just open space, and then having 2 gym courts for weightlifting equipment. And then we also are planning on doing reservations for our recreation center to limit the number of people in at a time. I think that we're going to be using IM leagues for that. I am a building manager, and also the risk management student position at my rec center. So I've been pretty involved in just trying to figure out what our policies are going to be, and kind of what staffing we can manage as well with, we're losing revenue from outside memberships. And so we're trying to figure out how much we can afford to pay staffing to keep certain areas of our gym open versus not.
Yeah, that's definitely, pay is a big concern, I think, for a lot of people, of how we're going to be able to bring back staff and compensate them. So thanks so much for sharing. If anybody has questions too, I know some universities are completely waiting on standby, so we may have a lot of questions to ask.
Hi, my name is Bella from Wingate University. I actually just have a question. That is, are you guys planning on protecting your basketball courts if you move equipment to them? Is there a specific way you are planning on doing that, or?
Yeah, I believe they're looking into buying mats that will place under each piece of equipment, kind of like deadlifting mats.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I know for us, we just got brand new flooring, not on our basketball courts, but on our actual weightlifting floor. And so we have a ton of those squares, rubberized squares. So we're going to be using those for our bigger equipment. Yeah.
I could actually speak to the,
Oh, go ahead.
sorry.
We have some brand new flooring at Dayton for like the 3rd time. Our gym likes to flood every year. So anytime we have to put anything on there, we use these like kind of cement board type things. So when we have lifts and any like boom lifts, they're very heavy. The cement board works great, keeps it from damaging, and it's fairly inexpensive at any hardware store. So if you don't have the means to buy those fancy mats from like Techno Gym or your suppliers, so keep that in mind also.
Mm-hmm. Adam, did you have something to add?
I was going to say, because we did a similar thing. We have just our like special event covers that we put on the floors for, you know, when there's going to be a lot of people walking and stepping, that kind of stuff. And instead of putting weightlifting equipment on those, we just have like the more lower impact cardio equipment. And then by moving that, we're able to move the weight equipment to where the cardio was, where it is the more rubberized floor. So if you can't afford like those bigger, heavier mats for weightlifting areas, you can just use like the special event stuff and then just put less heavy machines on it, because it'll have less wear and tear on the floor and on that cover.
Good point. And again, you guys are welcome to utilize that chat. We'll just keep things rolling. If nobody else has anything else to share, maybe a question or two will pop up on our next piece about continuing these virtual options. I know at our university, we've seen really good numbers at the beginning, and now it's the summer and most people tend to drop off. So our numbers for our virtual options have definitely dropped off, but it's opened up a really interesting scope of people and populations that aren't necessarily coming into our gym, which is something I've been really interested in exploring a little bit more. So I'm not sure if anyone had perspectives or have done any statistical data collection on how their virtual programs are working, and then maybe going forward, how they've helped, how they've hindered, and if they're planning on continuing them. Anybody? Well, I was going to say we've been using Facebook Live. Again, those numbers have dropped off in the summertime, but thinking of the people that were showing up were not necessarily people that we were seeing in our normal classes. So there is a level of accessibility that I know at UK, even when this is all over, we're still probably going to continue on a smaller scope, but still continuing those virtual options for people. And I was curious if anyone is currently looking at how they're going to be doing like onboarding, hiring, if that's happening, or training. I know we have a big training at the beginning of our year, and we're not really sure how we're going to do it yet. If anyone has any insight onto how they're planning on doing their virtual training or in-person training for their staff.
I can speak to that a little bit. I've been helping develop the training at Fair State. We have online classes through a program called Canvas. I don't know, a lot of you guys might be familiar with that. So we've been working with the university's IT department to get a Canvas class for our rec center department. And then we'll just release training modules, and each module will have a quiz to make sure everybody made it through.
That's a really good point. I've never been on the other side of Canvas though. I hear from my professors that it sounds like a nightmare. So I'm not technology.
Actually not that bad. I've designed
Okay.
3 trainings on Canvas so far, and like you pretty much just upload whatever you want and then make quizzes. I've been doing that for our camp counselors, which that's looking like it's ever likely never going to be used. But I did like an online training for our camp counselors with like all the different protocols and stuff we would normally go over, and then just created quizzes based on what I thought was most important from those trainings. And the back end's really not that bad once you get used to it.
Nice.
I am about to share in the chat a link to a Google form that was shared by Matthew Altendorf on the NIRSA forum that has a pretty extensive review of what other schools are doing for trainings. UCLA had this idea of creating modules on a separate software, there's the word, that I thought was pretty interesting considering they have a massive staff. So some of our larger schools on the call may want to look into that.
And I think, so Tom had a pretty cool question in the chat. If anybody wants to come off mute and answer, he asked, how is your individual rec department communicating with you, and have, what were your student staff's, I guess, thoughts throughout that process, and whether or not y'all feel informed. I know at West Virginia University, we have weekly check-ins that are every other day, so Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for about 30 minutes, and our director and associate directors sort of give us the 411 on all of the campus conversations that are going on, and then it's our responsibility as graduate assistants to, I guess, sort of relay that to our student staff that are working throughout the summer. So the trickle-down effect, I guess, is what we're using, and as a graduate assistant, I definitely feel pretty informed, but if anyone else is getting that information in any different ways, feel free to share.
Hey everyone, my name's Ross, University of Western Ontario in Canada. Just to comment on that last question, I think we have really good communication within our department up until the point of our incoming staff. I think they're being left in the dark a bit at my institution, just because, you know, management doesn't really know what to tell them because they're not really prepared to do the onboarding, and they're just kind of in a gray area because we don't know if we're going to completely be up and running in the fall. So I think as an incoming staff, it's really stressful because you can't even prepare for the experience in the fall in any way right now because you have nothing to go off of. I mean, we haven't really even connected in between each other with the staff teams. So we've only received one email from upper management saying, hold on until we know.
My name is Grayson Graham. I'm in Emporia State. So we keep up with our student staff through GroupMe, giving them weekly updates from what we hear from the university. We recently submitted a reopen proposal with 3 to 4 phases, and we had a reopen date of July 6th. The university let us know that they would like us to push that back to at least July 27th. So as soon as we heard that, we notified all student staff workers whether they were going to be working for us during the summer or not. I know they have really appreciated that. We've kept them informed with what the plans are for payroll, scheduling, and so forth. So kind of like Emily, it's just a trickle down effect with us as well.
And I would even add to that, Grayson, that it's really like hit or miss because we were supposed to open July 1st. That got pushed back to June 1st, and then that got pushed back to June 15th. And then last night we heard no, July 1st, because there's been more outbreaks in our area than there has been in the whole time that this COVID thing's been going on. So it really is. And we were telling students, hey, come back. We're gonna have trainings this week so you can start working next week. And now today we're like, boom, never mind, stay home, stay where you're at. And so like I felt terrible like telling students that, but I'm like, from what we heard and what we thought we were gonna open next Monday, that's 3 weeks from now. I'm sorry, like if you didn't already have another job or, you know, something else that was going on in your life. So really keeping that communication is really key, because even we're hearing things last minute and then we're trying to relay those down. So it can get really, really messy really quick.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Adam. We are opening on Monday on the 15th, but we actually, as a staff, we got an email that the whole university got saying that the campus rec center was opening on the 15th, and that was kind of like the first that we heard about it. So a lot of the things seem to be out of like the campus rec department's hands and are being made decisions by the university. And like we still don't know like what the mask policy is going to be in our facility, because that's a university decision. So we, as soon as we hear it, like we definitely have been like, even if it's just a quick group me message to the staff, like, oh, heads up, like here's what's going on. We've been communicating that as soon as we know, but it's kind of almost like a university communication problem, or not really a problem, but things are just moving, you know, in different directions all the time.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of things are out of our hands and it's really unknown and things are constantly changing, which I feel like that's the narrative across the board. And so a lot of people, that can be very, very stressful. And in a graduate assistantship or as an undergrad student, especially if you're preparing, you know, for your summer job or your summer employment, like you guys are mentioning, or in the fall, it can feel very, very stressful. And I do think that for the most part, at least in my personal experience, professional staff have been pretty open about that. And again, being in a GA position, it's a little bit more of a liaison position. So being the one to pass that on to staff, that for the most part, we are all just kind of waiting and watching until a step is made. So yeah, if anyone else has anything to add.
I think, Mark, you made a good point in the chat as well. You know, that because the information is constantly changing, and right now we have student staff who are needing to, you know, find second jobs to make ends meet through the summer, at least, you know, in some campuses and some departments. It's definitely good to ask those questions, right? Like ask, you know, questions that you might not get a straightforward answer, but they lead us into more of a direction to getting there, right? So like, what is our new graduate assistantship training going to look like? We're not very sure, but I know like one of our new graduate assistants at WVU, Gabby's on this call, and we've had you know, a couple of informal meet and greets so far, just to get the new graduate assistants accustomed to some things that they'll be experiencing with us, and you know, just having the face-to-face Zoom interaction can sometimes you know, be better once students get onto campus. So that's a great point, Mark.
It makes it feel more real. I definitely feel like for our incoming GA, we had a lot of texts and emails, and then I was finally like, let's just have a little face-to-face, and we like FaceTimed, and I was like, oh, okay, this is so much nicer, because now it feels like you're actually coming to UK. All right. Well, we are definitely welcome to bring ourselves back to any of these talking points if you guys have any questions that do come up. But we are at about that halfway point, and I just really want to open it up to any questions, comments, or concerns about anything that is going on, whether it's in campus recreation or our country today. You are welcome to ask any questions or give any perspectives right now. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can go back to seeing everyone's faces. But yeah, you are welcome to put that in the chat if you have any questions or comments, or if you just want to speak your mind right now. We're all here to be open. If anybody wants me to lead with a guiding question, though, we can start that way too. Well, then I guess I will leave with a question. So it kind of goes off of what we were just talking about with engaging our staff and engaging our students. And I was just kind of curious how people are engaging their staff with everything that is going on right now. Is it being addressed? Is it not? You know, is that our place? Kind of what are people thinking or doing?
And I would add to that too, as students, do you feel as though that's helpful? Whatever your pro staff are doing, do you feel like it's worthwhile?
Well, then
I
I
can go.
guess.
I can go. Hey, I'm Sean. I'm a graduate assistant for facilities at UCF. We haven't really had much communication with our pro staff about what's going on, but as graduate assistants, our outdoor adventure GA actually came up with the idea to come up together as GAs and start this like charity run fund. And so what he did was he created a GoFundMe and linked it to the George Floyd Memorial Fund, and basically said, hey, like if however many dollars we raise, we'll run 1 mile for the donations. And so he sent that out to our entire rec department back just, I think, last week. And so we've been logging those miles and he's been taking care of that. But that was just one way as students we kind of came together and did something and brought it to and sent it out to our pro staff. And I think they were appreciative of it. We got some donations from them as well. So without having like a formal conversation about it, we just kind of decided to maybe just do something about it. And it's been good so far.
Hey all, this is Vicki from Nebraska. I am a student of your feedback. So I love listening to the different things that are going on with you all and how we can support and advocate and make things better because of your feedback. I think one of the things that I personally did, and I think I see a lot of our staff doing, is first and foremost reaching out to our colleagues across our regions and just checking in and just making sure everybody's doing okay. And if they're not, sending whatever support and love that we can. But we have an event on campus that happens every Tuesday. It has for about probably a year and a half. It's called Dish It Up. And it's an event that is held in our multicultural center and around Oasis. Oasis organizes it, where they bring in different topics and people join in and can have very authentic, candid, conversations about all sorts of topics. And so it usually gets probably 20 to 30 people on site, but our last one, virtual one, got over 300 people who just really needed a venue to be able to have discussions that like you're talking about. And that's some of the things that we've professed to, I think, start the conversations, but also then to take that and have smaller venues of that with our student staff, starting with our student staff, but of course welcoming any of the participants that come in too. But I think that's one of the things that we're pledging to do, is to have more of those conversations, not to compete with the one that is very successful and going on, but to supplement it and have other locations for those conversations to take place.
I think that's a really good point to bring up, that we're all learning, and it's kind of interesting to think about how when we feel like we've reached a certain point, oh my gosh, we've learned so much, we're so educated. And I think what you find is the more that you know, the more that you realize you don't know. And the fact that the conversations are coming up, and that's really what this open forum is, to continue that conversation. So really appreciate that, Vicki. And I'm trying to have that teacher moment where I'm just like, we're just gonna sit in silence until somebody else speaks. So I'm gonna go back to being quiet now.
Mike actually asked an interesting question in the chat. He said, what's the student perspective on coming back to a job that's not what you originally applied for? Which this hasn't happened to me at my campus rec center yet, but I work at a community center. And as soon as this hit, my job became rather than supervising kids and, you know, working with the youth, like a custodial position, basically like just cleaning and sanitizing. And, you know, if that's going to be, you know, your responsibilities changing, how do the students feel about that?
I know for me, one thing that I've always valued and one thing that I believe I heard on the call the other day was you work for the department first and your program area second. So to me, it's about doing whatever is necessary to ensure that the department continues to thrive. I work in sport programs, like intramurals and sport clubs, but I've worked in facilities. I've gotten to know our outdoor rec coordinator and talked to her and had conversations about what she does. And I think that that's really important to kind of instill in our student staff.
I do have to talk on that. I'm Clea Torgerson from Texas A&M University. I am the graduate assistant for intramural sports there. Our students actually came in because we've opened up, and so our students didn't get to come in and do their normal intramural sports officiating and programming. So they actually came in, they cleaned the facility, they were social distancing bouncers. They did anything that we asked them just because, one, they wanted to be involved, and two, they love the community that our rec center has. They just wanted to be there. They wanted to see their friends, even if they had to stand 6 feet apart from each other. And they wanted to just do what they could for our department. And so I think that students, if they already have bought into your rec program, then they're still going to want to be there. They're still going to want to be in that position regardless of what they're doing.
I think that presents like an interesting challenge though, because you do have those students that have already bought in, but how do you combat that with students who have not worked a single day for campus rec yet, so they don't really understand like what it has to offer. So I'm not really sure how that would work, you know, not only training wise, but also, you know, they're signing up to be an intramural official or a main office staff, and now they have to clean the bathroom, but they don't like have friends within the department yet. It'll be interesting to see how that works.
Yeah, and I guess with that, Maeve, I also see it as what do you do if you have, you know, new responsibilities and the student maybe who is normally an intramural official doesn't feel comfortable talking to patrons and telling them, hey, like you need to have a mask on or this, like what if they're not comfortable with the new responsibilities that are expected of them?
If I can just chime in here, if an intramural official isn't comfortable talking to patrons, maybe they shouldn't be an intramural official. That being said, it's something that we all need to be able to do in our everyday lives, talk to people. That conflict is something that's going to help everybody grow. So let's start small with, hey, you have to wear a mask to come in. Well, I think if we frame it that way, students are going to be a little more likely to want to come to work if they know they're getting something out of it.
Yeah, I'd like to share. And I think, you know, we're all in the job of student development. And so this is an opportunity for students to develop new skills and that. We also have to be conscious on the equity and, you know, there are laws and rules and regulations and contracts and things that is different from every institution across North America. And so we need to be fair as well to have those conversations with the staff and be fair and open and honest about what we can and cannot provide, what we need and what, you know, and again, comes back to someone mentioned it's about choices. And so when we have those conversations, when we can be authentic and transparent about what we're looking for, then at least that gives that staff member opportunity to understand and make a choice, an informed choice about what they know they're going to get into, what they're going to learn, what differences and challenges they may face. But in the end, hopefully this is about student development, and what an awesome opportunity to, you know, expand your skill set and to, you know, see different operation sides of recreation and gain those valuable skills that are more than just about, well, I'm an intramural official and I'm just doing intramurals. It's about that growth, that, you know, co-curricular activity and experience that they're having by being a part of the rec department. So.
I did have one question because I am not sure if other schools are doing it, but I know my school this year is going to try and implement it. Has anyone tried to recruit freshmen into your campus rec program? And as doing that, how are you planning on doing it with COVID and everything?
Do you mean fresh, like incoming, they haven't even stepped foot on campus, or do you mean first years after their first semester?
No, I mean like incoming freshmen. It's something that Wingate University wanted us to try and implement this year, but we're kind of stumped on it as of now as to how to kind of coordinate getting them to be a part of campus recreation and advertising campus recreation to them with everything during COVID.
I would work with your orientation group, see what they're doing. University of Dayton has switched to a completely online. So maybe working with your orientation people to do a quick like video tour, like Juliana just mentioned in the chat, or a quick session. Hey, work for us. Get what is recreation at the end of it. Plug, hey, our application is open. It's a great way to get involved, and then the perks of being involved.
Yeah, I'll go with that, Karen. So Emporia State has moved all orientations to online as well. And what we're doing is we actually have one later this afternoon. There's about 4 different online orientations that we're performing, and they are basically going to go from like a screen share to different organizations on campus. And so today, the Rec Services, we are one of the first to be a part of that. And so we are just going to give a quick briefing of what our plans are for the incoming semester, as well as employment opportunities that we face. We have had a few staff quit because of the anticipation of what's going to be this coming fall and so forth. So that's our big thing, is we are just going to voice opportunities that we have, and that is through our student union and the orientation programs.
Hey all, this is Vicki again, and I would say that a place where you could make a huge impact on your campus, if your recreation department is not already connected with your new student enrollment activities during the summer, that's a place where I would rally the troops and try to make that happen. We are intricately involved with them. When we're on site, they do tours through our buildings, but now we're doing a lot of virtual informational sessions. And a part of that is that we are connected to a program called Handshake. And so they learn about the activities, and then they can go on virtually. They can go on and they can sign up and they can talk about their skills and what they'd like to do and what they have. And obviously during this time, we're very interested in also employing work-study students in this time where we don't know what budgets are going to look like. And so if your departments can open that up and maybe request work-study students, I think that also helps in that area in case for some reason you have to have less students than what you normally would have just by virtue of the budgets and what's going on with that. So connect with your NSE. They're your friends.
Hello, Pat from the University of Iowa. And just last week, the Division of Student Life reached out to the departments within the division, asking either as a program area to make a 5-minute video, or your team members a quick 1-minute video to introduce yourself and talk about the program area that you oversee, and then to follow up at the very end to encourage you to connect with us individually about employment or wanting more information. And so that is due into the division by the 22nd of this month. So it will be interesting to see the outcome of that.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of amazed how the pandemic has really, shifted this focus to virtual when there was a power in virtual engagement that we weren't utilizing before this, and hopefully we continue after this, because what we fail to realize oftentimes is that students aren't necessarily comfortable where the rec center is, and when they're new and they don't know where to go or how to be, it's very intimidating to walk into that front desk and understand that. And so if you really take it from a person perspective and think about, instead of the structure and showing them facilities and that, it's what are you trying to do? You're trying to make the student feel like they belong in their rec center. And so how can we do that virtually in engagement? And that can be tours, that can be introduction of staff. That's, seeing their peers and seeing the actual activity that happens, about students sharing their experience about how they feel being there, not showing that, oh, we got a great weight equipment and all this. And so how can we use that virtual engagement to kind of ease that stress and fear before they even get to the rec center, so that they feel more confident, that they feel maybe they recognize some faces. And I think the next part is how we connect virtual. And I love that about connecting them to somebody, right? And that can be still virtually via email or a chat or even a Zoom call, but so that when they come, they might see familiar faces or say, oh, hey, I know Tanika, maybe, hey, you remember me? I chatted with you. And those are the sense of connections that we can create during these orientations, rather than just strictly information based, where we're telling them what it is. The other thing is about kind of navigating their questions before they even get there. And the more those humanistic questions, like, am I going to bring my student card? Where are the washrooms? How do I have to dress? Even now with the pandemic, it's, do I have to bring a mask? Like, what's going to happen when I get there? Show a video. What's going to happen now that things have changed, so that people can expect it, where they don't now all of a sudden come to your check-in and go, oh, you're taking a heat temperature of me? What does that mean? I don't know. I got to wear a mask and I can't see your face. And so what can we do from a humanistic side and really take the lens of the participant, because we are so involved and embedded in the structure, because that's what we're living. We're talking about risk management. We're talking about policies and procedures, which are all incredibly important, but really it has nothing to do with who we're serving, which is people. That's just a way to navigate and create a healthy environment. But what can we do by looking at a people lens to say, what are they going to experience when they come here? What can we do to help navigate and facilitate that experience so it's a positive one?
Absolutely. I know at UK, our orientation is huge. Move-in day is huge. Street fairs are big, and that's where we get most of our information and most of our engagement out, and making that personal connection. But I definitely feel like with social isolation, social distance, people are feeling a real need for connection. And I think that's a really great place where campus recreation can kind of fill that gap. And that's something that I've kind of wanted to explore, but we struggle with just thinking that, oh, our virtual classes are only getting so many people. Who are we really talking to anymore? And I do think orientation could be a great way. And Vicky did mention live sessions for parents. I think that's an amazing idea, especially because you do have a lot of parents, with everything going on right now, very concerned about sending their child back to a highly populated place. So that could be a really great way to engage with some other patrons. We may not necessarily patrons, but prospective patrons, parents, that we may not think of. If anyone has questions or comments that are totally off track what we're talking about, you're welcome to bring that up as well. So we don't have to always stay on the same topic if it feels like it's kind of come to a close there. Oh, go ahead, Kate.
Vicky went ahead and posted and asked if anyone's institutions have changed their fall schedule. For example, University of Nebraska, we're starting online instruction a week early, and we will conclude classes on November 25th.
Emporia State, there have been talks about canceling fall break, making the week of Thanksgiving a week off, and then just doing finals and such online.
I would say, yeah, Utah State has also talked about starting on the same time, but then when everyone leaves for Thanksgiving break, just doing the last week of classes, dead week, and then finals all online, just like how we did in the spring. That way no one comes back to campus until after the new year.
That's similar at WVU too. Late last week, the decision was made final that we would begin classes on campus on August 19th. Class sizes are reduced to 50% of its original capacity. So they'll be expanding their online offerings. And then we're removing our fall break as well as Thanksgiving break. So students won't come back to campus after, I guess that's like November 20th. And spring break is just the same. So already looking pretty far ahead into the spring semester. But the trying to eliminate folks traveling to various places and then coming back to campus to hopefully not, spike a corona uprise, I guess, or yeah, higher numbers.
Heidi brought up a question of enforcement. So we're talking a lot about these different policies that we're going to be having and different structures. Does anyone want to speak on how they plan on enforcing that? And again, training staff to enforce that. I know we sort of brought it up with an IM official having to tell someone to put on a mask and whatnot.
I think it's going to be similar to kind of our dress codes. It's like you have to have a shirt on in this building for the health and safety of your skin and our equipment. So the mask has to be on to continue having the health and safety of our patrons and yourself. So I think just giving that quick education to your staff that says, hey, think of it this way and because of these reasons, and then translate that to your patrons. I found that even with our dress code, a lot of people get angry about our dress code, but as soon as we say it's for your health and safety, they say, oh, okay, I understand. I'll go home, put on a shirt, put on tennis shoes, do whatever. So making sure there's that education aspect and not a you can't do this. It's a highly encouraged.
I think that enforcement will also become easier if you receive like guidance from the institution as a whole. So like if the university said everyone on campus has to wear a mask, there's really no arguing with that policy just because you're in the campus rec center,
Hi, this is Vicky again. I think what Kate said is sometimes is the issue is that, as I mentioned in the thing, is the city rules or the community rules differ from the university rules. And in our situation, we have to follow the university rules. And so I feel bad that our front line for enforcing those rules will be the students. And they may be new students, as someone mentioned, who have not really experienced all of this before, or well, they haven't experienced this obviously, but they haven't experienced the work environment in its normal phase. So it's putting them in a position where they have to now enforce rules that obviously not everyone agrees with. If you're watching anything on TV, you see. And so I think that's going to be the difficult part. And I think navigating that is going to be a day-to-day, week-to-week kind of a situation where we're just going to have to learn. We're just going to have to learn.
Yeah, I kind of struggle with the enforcement aspect. It's not our students' jobs. It's not our jobs, to be that enforcers. If that's their main responsibility, then I think we got to question, maybe we shouldn't even open at this time. And I know that's hard with people, you having mandates from states and the institutions and that. And, grocery stores don't enforce, and I see that all the time. They have all their postings about how you're supposed to distance and only one person per family member and it's not followed and it's not enforced, and they don't have grocery store owners and workers going around telling people, oh, you're too close, please don't touch every single avocado there, please, and put it back. So there's going to be that balance of understanding of and hopefully it's mitigated and it's not a huge issue or as much as we think it is, but there's potential for a lot of conflict. And with any conflict, when we can approach it from an empathy standpoint, again, a humanistic standpoint and we've heard some great comments about, educating and discussing and, bringing it apart, but that's hard when students are still learning and trying to understand conflict resolution skills and what that looks like. So again, for me, it is one of those things that I'm not comfortable with the enforcement conversation, really, because I don't think that's our role, and it doesn't really develop a sense of belonging for our patrons who come in. So if someone has, well, I have a breathing disorder, it's uncomfortable for me to work out and wear a mask. So they refuse to wear a mask. We're going to make, if we're going to enforce it and make a deal of it, that's going to create conflict. Yet, what are you going to do when someone's on their treadmill and constantly readjusting their mask? Well, then the mask has done nothing because they've touched their face, they've readjusted, they've done everything. And you're going to see that those types of incidences aren't probably going to be approached because we're going to, you touched your, and then our staff going to wander around and looking at everyone, making sure they're touching and cleaning. So, just by the act of coming into the rec center, there's already a risk of contagion, of spreading the virus. And, even with the questionnaires and heat checks, so someone is asymptomatic, or if I came all the way down and you're asking me questions, well, do you feel sick today? Of course I'm going to say no. It's not like I'm going to say, you know what, you're right. I don't feel the best, so maybe I shouldn't work out today. They've come, they've made that decision. And so it's so hard for us to navigate that. I wish I had a good concrete answer, but I think if we can take the more approach of that humanistic side of understanding, again, I love it saying, this is for your safety as well, and your health, and this is what we're trying to do. But if we're there being enforcers of every rule and policy, you're going to have staff that are going to be stressed. They're going to be unhealthy. they're not going to want to work there. You're going to have patrons who are upset because there's always confrontation, or someone else's expectations aren't being met. Well, they're not doing it. How come? And then it's just going to create a lot of conflict. So I think the more humanistic side and empathy we can provide and really think about why the risk is there and what we can do, those are conversations I think that have to happen at the institutional level and that. But even then, the institutional level is different than rec, because we have a different set of rules because we deal with students differently. But ultimately that institution trumps. So it's having that conversation and understanding the why and helping your patrons understand the why, so that at least they're informed rather than just being told, you can't come here, you got to leave.
One of the things that we've thought of at UCF is potentially broadcasting something over the PA system similar to that of the grocery stores, maybe every hour or so, reminding people of what to do. Just another thought of a way to get the communication out when they enter, while they're there, without having to constantly maybe walk up to them. Still doing that as well, but also having like a broadcast in case they decide to listen and take out their earphones. But yeah.
We're getting close. We're in that final 10 minutes of our conversation. So if there's anything, any topic that anybody wants to bring up to kind of finish us out, you're welcome to. Well, then I guess I will leave with a big question, and I don't know if anybody's really thought of it, but looking at NIRSA as an entire organization starting to be in the works, they're actually having a meeting as we speak, our board of directors, about how they plan on taking some action in response to a lot of the social justice issues and frankly social injustices that are happening, and really wanting a perspective from the students about what we want to see from this organization. I know they've put out a statement, but I think across the board it's been a common belief that they want to put their money and put their work where their mouth is, and wanting to know what students want to see from NIRSA as an organization. So I guess that's my question to everyone out there. Well, I guess I'll speak again. I know personally it's been a really interesting balance between sharing information, having conversations, this balance of what people are thinking of me by doing that, and realizing that it's a very, how do I phrase that? It's a very gentle subject for a lot of people, internally and externally. So balancing that conversation for me has been pretty difficult because you get very different responses from very different people. And I do appreciate that NIRSA is being very open and asking for a perspective. And for me, I would just say the information that's been put out already has been so super helpful, but I would like to see more partnerships with our universities and creating those changes structurally, because words are really nice, but action is what's going to help that. In certain areas, I do think the steps being taken that there are breaks from city police, I think is an interesting step. I don't know if it's going to be as helpful, but I do think it makes a statement, which is important to facilitate that change. But with NIRSA as a whole, if anybody has any other ideas.
I can speak up for a second. My name is Sylvain, and I'm a coordinator at Penn State. So I think everyone is scared of how they're viewed, and I think that's just the wrong way to go about it. Whatever you say or whatever you do has importance, whether small or big. Everyone has a role to play. This is not something that has just happened. It's been going on for well over 400 years. So it's not like we're just gonna change the system overnight. I know it's definitely not gonna happen in my lifetime, probably not gonna happen in my kids' lifetime, but every step we take is a step forward. So whether it's just you having conversation with your friends or whatever, for me, it's been creating space for my friends to have a place to talk. So I just created a Zoom meeting, and lo and behold, people that never share their feelings were able to just let it out, right? So it's just, it starts somewhere, whatever you might do. Not everyone has to be on the front line to fight. Not everyone is going to be a general. If we have too many generals, then we're not moving in any direction. So everyone has to find what they can do and fight the battle in that manner, whether it's you trying to educate the people around you, or you being a listening ear, or whatever you might be. Everyone has a role to play, and if nothing's going to change in one way, there's no right way to go about change. That's the whole point of this. So it's a multifaceted avenue of making the change happen, is educating people, making your voice be heard out there. It's all avenues are necessary. So everyone just has to find where can I be helpful and how can I be helpful, and just going about that. That's just the way I see it, but I think it's just a multi-avenue. Just if we fight on all sides, then we have a chance to move forward. And we shouldn't expect change to happen overnight either. That's not how it works. It's going to take just as long. It's been happening. Change has been happening for the whole just like I said, it's been happening for 400 years. Change has been happening for 400 years also. And it's just going to keep taking time for it to happen. But I think we live in a progressive society, and I definitely think we're going to get there. Like I said, probably not in my lifetime or my children, but we will get there eventually.
I appreciate that, because yesterday I was on a call with associate directors, and they're having these same discussions. And I think the biggest part of that was the fact that to reach out to people and just check to see they're okay. And if they say, no, I'm not okay, to be a good listener, because we don't have the answers. Everybody's unique, everybody's different, and it's okay to not be okay right now. And so it was a really authentic and meaningful conversation among 100 and some people, just having the conversation and sharing.
Alrighty, everyone. So we are at that 1 o'clock mark. I'm going to share my screen one last time so that you all can see the email address. I put it in the chat, but you can see the email addresses. Hopefully everyone can see that of your regional student leaders as well. Feel free to reach out to them individually or to me as well. I'll be able to pass on those messages directly to the NIRSA board and the member network as well. So if there was something that was sparked in this conversation and you're still trying to collect those thoughts and figure out how you want to phrase that, you're welcome to send an email later on. Continue to use NIRSA Connect and share those ideas there as well. This will be recorded, so you will all be able to come back to it and share it with students, staff, peers, or your supervisors as well. And then I just really appreciate, from my perspective, everybody sharing their thoughts and opinions. It's what NIRSA is really all about. We're just a giant think tank trying to make our organizations better, and then collectively, as we've seen through a lot of the connections that NIRSA has outside, trying to make our country and world a little bit better. So I hope that gives everybody a little bit more perspective and purpose into what we're doing and why we're here. So anybody else has anything else to add? Oh gosh, thanks guys. You're welcome to throw it in the chat or say your piece now, but otherwise you're all free to go.
Thank you, Tanika.
Aww.